Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K.
Welcome to the 7th installment of Creating with Window Envelopes. Each week I will be posting a new idea on how to create various junk journal elements using window envelopes that measure 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. But the majority of the ideas that I will be sharing with you each week can be modified to fit different window envelopes or even just basic envelope that are in your stash. For today's episode, I will be sharing with you a staggered double window envelope flip. And to begin with, I will do a project share and show you what a couple of them look like. And then for those of you who would like to stick towards the end of the video, I do have a tutorial on how I created one of these. And the tutorial will be for this blue one right here in the middle. But they're all put together exactly the same. And so I'll just kind of show you the basic idea of these. Again, it's a staggered window envelope flip, so they do flip open. And then you have different various elements, whether you have belly bands or pockets inside of them that you can use to add extra journaling space in your journals. So if for some reason like this were your journal, I don't have a journal here. I switched craft rooms. I'm using my husband's office for the winter, and so I don't have any journals up here yet. But let's just pretend that this was a journal. So if this was a journal and you were to stick this and glue this down onto your journal, you could glue it down and just leave it as is. Or if you wanted to, you could make it into another tuck spot or a pocket behind it or on top of it or even underneath it if you wanted to. And then of course, then it would flip open this way. So that's how I would use it in a journal. So the first one that I wanted to share with you guys is this one. All of these envelopes are decorated using scrapbooking paper. I have lots of scrapbooking paper in my stash left over. I make Christmas cards every year, and so I always have lots of pieces left over that I don't use in my card making, and so I've been trying to use those into my window envelope series. And then I also am in a collab where we're supposed to be smashing as many of our small paper pads as we can, so I've been using some of those papers also. And I do have a couple of digital elements that I did add to these, and they are all from Tsunami Rose. And I'll just show you again that these open up. They are staggered window envelopes, so they do stagger. The two window envelopes are staggered and they flip open. Each one of them has a top loading pocket, but you could easily also change the pocket to the side if you wanted to. I just found it easier just to have both of them be on the top. Each of them you do see the window envelope and you can see something behind them. And I just put some text paper behind each of them. And then you can journal on the cards on the inside. And so when this one opens up again, so I have the little cluster there, and when it opens up, you'll see this window envelope, and I'll open it up all the way. Right here, I have a little tuck spot right there for a little postcard. I also have a little tuck spot right here for that little image, and I think these two are Tsunami Rose. And then this one right here, I did a flip up so that you could flip it up and you could journal up here, or you could journal down here. So that was the first one. And then here's kind of the second one, again with the traditional Christmas colors. I did a little bit of a collage here. These are all pieces from like probably Kaiser Craft. This was a digital, not a digital image. This was a rubber stamp, the number 25. And then this, you can take out, it says Christmas wish list, so you can journal right there. And again, you can see this one, the pretty scrapbooking paper, and you pull out your journal card. You can journal right there, and then again on the back side of this one. And when you open it up, this one I chose to add a side pocket, and I decorated just a little bit there. And then this has Christmas words, and so you can journal right there. Then on this window envelope, I just added a couple little pieces, and again, another journaling card. Then when you open it up, I do have a little tag, a belly band with a tag that pulls out right here. Or this one, actually, you can open it up this way too to stick it in. And this was gifted to me from somebody, so but I thought that was kind of a cute idea, and I found it in my Christmas stuff, so I added that there. as a little belly band. And then again, this is a little postcard, and it will flip up, and you can journal right here, and you can also journal right here. And then this is the final one, and again, this is the one that I will be doing the tutorial on. And so this one, what I did choose to do is I did wrap some seam binding around it because I thought it would be fun once it's inside of your journal, that this would be tied down, and then you could untie it and then kind of do the little staggered envelopes. And you could still, I did cover the back side of it, so you would still be able to use it as a tuck spot or a pocket. Since I put it back on it, it wouldn't get caught on the ribbon. So once you've untied it, I do have a little cluster here of some little ephemera pieces and a really small postcard that fits there behind that tuck spot. Again, this one just has some journal cards. And I did put scrapbooking paper on both sides, but the paper is light enough to be able to journal on. And here I just did some text paper that you can see in the background. And when you flip it open, on this side I have a belly band. And I put a couple of little journal cards in it. And on this one, again, you can see the window envelope. And then this little piece comes out so that you could journal on the back side. And I have a little, you know, cluster of stuff down there. And again, the journal card comes out and you can journal on both sides. And when you open it up, I have another little journal card or photo, and you can journal on the back side. And just a little small little cluster there. I added a little snowflake up there, some eyelash trim. And again, another little cluster right here down in the corner. This one, you can pull this tag out to journal on. And then you can also pull out this little piece also to journal on. And this background piece I think is light enough that you could journal in between the music notes, or it would be fun to add a photo or something back there. Or if you still wanted to, you could also add like another postcard and washi tape it on and flip it up and be able to have like a spot to journal here and here too, depending upon the postcard that you use. So you could still add some more elements to this if you wanted to. And again, it just this one ties shut. So if you are interested in seeing how I put this together, I will go over the supplies real quick, and then I will do a little bit of a tutorial on how I put it together. So I'm going to go over a few of the supplies I am using today. To begin with, ribbon if you want. You don't have to have ribbon or lace. You will need some sort of embellishment or ephemera to decorate your envelopes, and I am using this set from Kaiser Craft, and it came from a collection called Frosted. And I have a couple different sets in here. I had them left over from previous years from some cards that I made, and I'm just trying to use some of what's in my stash. You will need window envelopes, and the window envelopes that I'm continuing to work with are measuring 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. You will need 2 for this project. If you might need a third one of exactly the same if you need it as a template, if you like to trace around your paper and then glue it on top of the envelope. So you might need that. And then you would also possibly need an X-Acto knife or a scissors or something like that. I am also using some paper strips, and these ones make them 1 inch wide. And then it'll just depend upon how big your flaps are, what length you will need. But again, I just pull out paper scraps to use. You will need a piece of background cardstock that measures 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, but you can easily alter the size of this if you want. This is just the particular size that I am using. If you want to have something showing behind your window envelope, you will need that. So I have some text paper. And then the last items you will need is paper to decorate your window envelopes. And again, I'm working with a paper collection from Kaiser Craft, and it's that frosted paper collection that matched that ephemera. And I'm just working with scraps that I've had from years past. You could definitely use some sort of digital kit also if you work with digital kits. I'm just trying to use up some of the scrapbooking paper that I have. And so those are, and then of course if you like ink, to ink your edges. Most of the time I choose to work with like a vintage photo color, but this time I did choose to work with this blue color called Faded Jeans from Tim Holtz, but he does have lots of other nice blue ones too if you wanted to work with a different color. And I think I will also be adding some eyelash trim, so I do have that also. You will also need like scissors and a paper cutter, and then also glue. I most likely will be working with this glue stick, Scotch permanent glue stick, and then also Eileen's tacky glue. Other items that you may need to work with to do this project is a circle cutter, and then also a tab punch. But if you don't have one, you can easily like glue 2 circles together to make a tab, or you could go without, or just fold a piece of paper over the edge to make a tab. So there's different options if you don't have this tab punch or a die cut that makes tabs. To start with, I am going to share with you guys the basic template that I'm working from. So I did use a ribbon as closure. And so you would open it up. As far as how you would put it into your journal, you could make it into a tuck spot or a pocket and glue it down that way, or you can glue it down flat and just use the pieces right here. So it just depends upon how bulky your journal is, and if you want more pockets or not, then like I said, you could add some sort of pocket to it. And so once you open it up, you will have 2 window envelopes that stagger each other, and you open them up like this, and you can choose to stagger them either way. You could also choose to put it in your journal this way and stagger them up or down. You would just, of course, adjust sizes to fit your journal. And then each of these also has a pocket in them. And I chose to do top loading pockets, but you could glue up here and open it up down here to create like a side pocket if you'd rather have that for each envelope. So there are options and some variations to this. And then of course, when you open it up, I don't know, I'll hold it up close. I did use those little paper scraps to create the flaps right here to hold down my envelopes. And then there's the piece of cardstock in the background. So that's the basic construction. If you want to watch me put one together, stay tuned for the rest of the tutorial. Okay, to start with, I am going to cut down my window envelopes. And again, the size really doesn't matter as long as it fits into your journal. And so I'm going to cut mine a little bit above where the window envelope part is. And these window envelopes are shut. They're closed. So I think like this one is about 5.5 inches if you want to do exactly what I'm doing. 5.5 inches. And I'm going to cut this one exactly the same at 5.5 inches also. So I have 2 pieces. You also have these offcuts, which you can very easily turn into pockets. So don't throw those away. You can redecorate them with your scraps, and then you have 2 more pockets for your journal. So after you've cut your envelopes to size, you will need your background piece that you're going to stagger them onto. And again, that one is 4.5 by 6.5. And I've already gone ahead and decorated one that's exactly the same size. I just glued some of that scrapbooking paper down. And then you have your 2 envelopes again that are 5.5 length, and then the width is 3 5/8. And again, they have the opening up at the top. And your next step is you're going to want to decide how you want them staggered. And so I like to kind of stagger them this way, with the top one being up here and the bottom one being down here, but you could do it this way also. It's just personal preference, so that doesn't really matter. And so I've actually gone ahead, again, to make today's tutorial go a little bit faster. I've already decorated the fronts of these 2 envelopes that I've already cut down. And I did put background paper inside of them. You could use the scrapbooking paper also. And I've also already added journal cards to them that I've used the scrapbooking paper for. So I've done that for both of these, and the back sides are still plain. So I wanted to show you guys the next step. And so I am going to grab some paper scraps. They are 1 inch wide. And the length you're going to want is the same length as your envelopes. So these would be 5.5. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these down to 5.5. And you're only going to need 2 of them. one for each envelope. I just happen to have 3 sitting here. Then you're also going to want to score down the middle and fold them. And this is creating our flap that we're going to be using. And I did already pre-score these, so if you're wondering why they're folding so easy, I had pre-scored them before we started the video today. And so I am going to decide which envelope I want on top and which I want on the bottom. I think I kind of like this darker one right there, and then this one right here. So you are next going to need to take your glue, and we're going to glue the flaps onto the back side of this envelope. I'm just making sure that they fit before I go ahead and glue. So I have glue on this side of the paper, and I'm just going to glue the flap right here. And you do want it flush with the envelope. And I do find it helpful sometimes to, if it takes a little while for the glue to go down, you could use a binder clip, or I'm just going to go ahead and just stick a paper clip, because that's what I have sitting here on my desk. I'm just going to paper clip that down for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and glue just the one side on this one also. So I have glue right here, and here's my envelope, and I'm going to glue it to this edge. And again, I want it to be flush, my fold to be flush, and I'm just going to again use a paper clip just to hold it down for a minute here in place. And as you can see, I don't think I mentioned this before, I just put glue on the one side, so this still flips open. I'm just gluing that in place for a second there. So once your flap has dried, this is what you should have, and you're going to want to glue this onto your background piece of cardstock. And again, this was 4.5 by 6.5. And you can, if you're decorating afterwards, you could glue it right on top like this and flip it open. Or if you want, you can hide it underneath and flip it this way. And so that's what I'm choosing to do this time around. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some glue right here, and then I'm going to add this on top. And I'm just centering it. I'm not really centering it on the paper. I am putting it all the way to the top so that it's flush with the top. And you might need to hold it in place for a minute or two if you're using the tacky glue. If you're using some sort of fast drying glue, you might not have to hold it for that long. Or again, you could just stick a couple of paper clips down on it to hold it in place. Once your flap has been glued down and it's in place, you can go ahead and take your paper clips off. And so you should have, one flap going on to your background paper. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with this one. So I'm going to take the paper clips off. And so again, I have a piece that looks like this with the flap on it, and we're going to glue this down. And again, you can choose to glue it directly on the front or on the back. There's no right or wrong, just whatever you prefer. Sometimes if I glue it on the fronts and I don't like the way this looks, I'll use washi tape on it. But again, I'm just going to hide mine on the back, so I am just going to put a little bit of glue down here. And I want this one to be on the bottom, so I'm going to make this flush with the bottom down here. So the envelope will line up with the bottom. And again, I'm just going to stick a paper clip, or again, you could use a binder clip just for a minute or two while that sets and glues there. Okay, once the flap has dried, you should have an item that looks like this. Next step is, I had already pre-inked all my papers when I glued them down, but I do like to put just a little bit here just so that's not so white. So I am just going to carefully add just a little bit more blue down here, and then I'm going to go ahead and cover these envelopes. And so I did go ahead and pre-cut paper to the right size for the back. So again, they will fit on the back side of the envelope. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue those down then. And for this, I'm going to switch over to a glue stick. I'm just going to grab some scrap paper and add glue to the back of my paper. And I just like to use the back of my bone folder or like an old gift card just to make sure that there's no bubbles in my paper. I'll go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And it actually looks like my paper is a little bit too long here, so I'm going to, before I start gluing, I'm going to just trim that a little bit. So once you've added the paper on the back sides, if you need to add any paper to the inside, you guys can do that. You can also create your journal cards, and I just use the scrap papers and glued them down onto the front and back of some cardstock and added a tab. You can decorate down here, and I might still do some decorating down on the bottom here, but I'll do that at the end. And so I am going to go ahead and decorate the rest of this now with some different pieces. And again, I'm using that ephemera kit from Kaiser Craft that matched the scrapbooking paper. And I did kind of lay some stuff out to make it go a little bit faster today. And so I was thinking here, I'm going to glue down the tree. And then this one says Merry Christmas to You. And I did want, and I'm going to glue that up at the top, but I did want to show you guys, sometimes when you buy scrapbooking paper, the tabs at the bottom, like this says Merry and Bright. And let's see, the back side of this one says Home for the Holidays. And that one's, well, that one still says Merry and Bright, but I do cut these off and use the bottom tabs for things. And so this Merry Christmas to You came off of the bottom of one of those pieces of paper. So I'm going to glue that up at the top there. I also inked the edges around all of these too. This one says Wonderful Moments. I'm going to go ahead and add that, I think, right there, because I like to make a little collage. And then I had this little snowflake too that was part of the kit. I'm going to add that. And then I think I'm going to make this into a little tuck. And then so I had this tiny little postcard that was part of that ephemera kit. And so I'll be able to tuck that behind there and leave the word out that says Merry Memories. And I'm also going to add some eyelash trim behind the wonderful moments, just to add a little bit of extra to it, a little bit of extra detail. So I'm going to go ahead and do all those things, and then I will be back to share what the front looks like with you guys. Okay, so I just wanted to show you what it looked like after I glued all of the pieces down on the front. And then again, I made this into a little tuck spot right there. So I'm going to call that done for this page. And I decided not to glue anything else decorative on here. Again, because I think it's kind of fun sometimes when you journal on these that you can see your writing through the windows. Or I could add something once I actually use it in a journal. So I'm going to leave that like that. So now to decorate the inside, I'm going to go ahead and decorate this flap next. And for this one, I was thinking I was just going to do something simple like glue down a belly band. And then I had a couple of journal cards that I cut out from that paper collection, and I just was going to stick those inside of the belly band. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry before I stick the journal cards into that spot. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up and decorate these two pieces right here. But let's decorate this first, the inside. And for here, I layered up a couple of pieces. This background piece is just a scrap piece of circle that I had that was cut out of some sort of lace type scrapbooking paper. It was from a different Christmas paper, another Kaiser Craft one, but it was a leftover piece from in my scrap pile. And these two pieces came from that ephemera kit, and the little ice skate came from another scrapbooking piece of paper that I had. But I thought I could maybe glue that down on the bottom. And I thought maybe I could add this little tag right here, because I didn't glue this all the way down, that I would have a small tuck spot there. And then also I could make a tuck spot behind the whole cluster right there. So, and then you could still, if you were using this in a journal, you could still glue down a photograph or something, or this is still light enough that you could journal in between the lines too. So I think that's what I'm going to do there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And I'll let it dry just a little bit before I stick this piece in. So I'm going to move on to this sector right here. So I think this is dry enough. So I'm just kind of looking to see, because sometimes it's kind of fun if you can see something right there. And so I do have this sentiment right here that says it's the most wonderful time of the year. So I'm thinking that I'm going to set that right there. And this was cut off of one of the papers from this paper collection. And this was from the bottom. It says Merry and Bright. So I might make sure that I can see that at the bottom here. And so I'm thinking I might maybe layer this little lady with a Christmas tree, this vintage lady, and put this Merry and Bright, and then maybe the snowflake down there too, just to make kind of a little cluster. And I think that looks okay, even though you can't really see what that photograph is when you close this. It does make you want to open it and see what that is. So I'm going to call that good right there. And the other thing I forgot to mention is if you want to cut notches on the tops of your envelopes, like up here, you can go ahead and do that. I chose not to just because I do have tabs at the top. And right here I chose to put Merry Christmas to you, so it would be kind of tough to put a notch. I could put a notch, though, on the back side of this one if I wanted to. But I'm choosing not to add notches today. But if you wanted to cut a little circle notch out, you could do that. And then what I was thinking here is if I just glue her down again on two sides, I could still make this into a tuck spot. And I could tuck this into there. And again, this is another piece from that ephemera kit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. Okay, I did go ahead and glue all those pieces down. The sentiment right here, the sentiment right there. And I did go ahead and add a little bit of eyelash trim behind this little snowflake, just to give it a little more visual interest. When this is closed, you'll be able to see it. And this little piece then will stick in there. And again, I already had the journal card up here created. And it does seem like these are all dry enough, so I'm going to go ahead and tuck my other pieces into their spots. And so we just have this last one to decorate. And again, you don't have to decorate. You could leave it so that you could journal on it. I think you could still journal on this one. It's light enough if you were to use a dark black pen or something. Or you could add a photo there if you're using it in a December daily. But I think what I want to do is just do something kind of simple. I have this one that says Christmas Memories, and you could journal on that if you wanted to. I'm just going to add a little snowflake there. And I will probably put some eyelash trim behind it. I have 2 snowflakes here. I think I'll use the bigger one. And then I'm just going to tuck this little journal card in behind here. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm also going to ink the edges of that snowflake. And then I think up here on this journal card, since I have another little tiny snowflake, I might glue that up there just to add a little more interest. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back to show you the finished project. Okay, I did want to show you the finished project. So we did glue this down, and I added the little snowflake with the eyelash trim there. There's some eyelash trim there. And again, all the journal cards. And this one. And that would be how I would close it up. If you wanted to, you could do it this way also. But I like how this looks because you can see the Merry and the Bright and all the sentiments and everything. And so the last step is, if you want, is you can go ahead and tie some sort of ribbon or lace around it. And originally I was going to use this really pretty silver lace that I have, but I think it's just going to get lost on the project. And so I did go through my stash and I found this vintage seam binding, and it's in a light blue color. And I think that'll match. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as my closure. And then for this, I do like to use some sort of double-sided tape when I'm taping it down on the back side. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out which length I want this to be so I can cut it down. So that should be pretty good there. So I'll go ahead and snip it right there. Then on the back side, what I like to do is I will take a piece of double-sided tape, and I'm just going to approximately find the middle of where I want to put this down, and then I'll go ahead and find the middle of my ribbon. And then I'll go ahead and I'll tape this ribbon to the back. Then the other thing that I'm going to do is, because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use this in a journal, if I want to use it as a tuck spot or a pocket, what will happen is if you're going to slide in like a journal card, it could get stuck on the ribbon or one of these side flaps. So I am going to go ahead and just glue down a scrap backer to it. That way when I push, if I use it as a pocket, it's not going to get caught. So I'm going to go ahead and do that also real quick. And so now hopefully that will keep it from, if I decide to use it as a tuck spot or a pocket in the future, that'll keep anything from getting stuck on the ribbon or the back flap pieces. So there is my finished Staggered double window envelope flip that we created. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that little tutorial today. And if you did, please leave me a comment or give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and happy crafting.